What is up? What up? What up? What up? Welcome back. Soul of a Nerd. I'm Phil, and I'm cheesing, and I'm holding. It's like I am cheesing right now because I got something to talk about today. Um, WandaVision, episode 4. Just finished watching it again. I watched it last night. Just watched it again, literally just now. It's Sunday, and boy, what an episode! I am quite pleased. Let's just jump right into it. Okay, man, I said previously that the episodes are getting better as they go. No better example than this one. Again, kudos, Marvel Studios. This strategy of this development of this show, episode to episode, is brilliant. One, because of the week to week, it's just going to keep the buzz going. The 30-minute really was frustrating this week because this thing seemed to end way too quick. But actually watching it the second time, I realized, hey, it was good. I think it just took me by surprise watching it yesterday that it was over when it was over. And what they're doing from episode to episode with the Easter eggs in the seeds that have been planted from each episode, and I see it paying off now in this episode 4. It's just phenomenal. So let's get right into it. Some of the highlights of this episode, the opening. Let's just start right there. Dope opening. You get dialogue from Captain Marvel, literal replay dialogue movie Captain Marvel, when Maria Rambeau was getting ready to take off and go on a mission with Carol, and she left her daughter behind and all that, who was Monica, now grown. And to put that dialogue as the backdrop of while we're watching her sitting in a hospital, formulating from particles. And this is where it's like, I don't even know if I should feel ashamed of this, because I almost want to say, if you don't get what that was, then something's wrong with you. But then again, I had to look at, when I watched it for the first time yesterday, as it's happening, I'm just so captivated by the special effects, which were dope. You know, these shows are supposed to be movie budgets. That's really what I was caught up in. Not even really putting this together, like, wait. Until right when it got to the part where she looked at her hands and her hands were forming from the particles. I said, wait a minute, this looks like the dusting in reverse. And I'm like, Monica was dusted. Freaking dope, man. This is the beauty of what Marvel Studios has done, is they've created now this history. It's really kind of like Star Wars, because they have created a history now where they can reference these moments now and immediately get like the goosebumps and the juices flowing amongst their geeked fans. Kevin Feige, I'm sure these are his ideas, and he has studied the Star Wars geekdom fandom very well, because that's what it seems like to me. Like, it just, not directly anything I can think of that's Star Wars that's like that, but it just has that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? When you can just reference a character or a race of aliens or whatever, that they do that throughout the Star Wars movies to make you, like when you heard Jabba the Hutt's name in the first Star Wars movie from 1977, Han Solo literally talks about Jabba, and you forget about that. And then even when he gets captured in Empire Strikes Back, you're still not making this connection. And then when you see this big blob Jabba the Hutt in the third movie and realize he was referenced 6 years prior in a movie. You know what I mean? So yeah. So right then, I'm just like, I'm just a mark and a geek for when they can just make the connections to other shows and other movies. I mean, when they mention stuff back in Daredevil on Netflix, like the disaster, in New York, I mean in Harlem, or the New York incident, like I was already just geeking, like please bring all the connectivity. So obviously, being that these are Marvel Studios produced shows, they are having direct, blatant connections to the movies. So for them to give us that little background, dope. We got to answer to where Maria is. Maria passed away during the 5 years after Infinity War, so it's kind of crazy. And it gives you, well, once you start running to the hallway, it just really got confirmed that she had come back from the blip. So we were literally looking at the moment that happens after um, the Hulk snaps his fingers. Is basically what you're looking at. People started showing back up where they last were 5 years ago, and so she had been at the hospital with her mother 5 years ago, and in the 5 years she's gone, her mother passed away. It's kind of sad. And from watching it again, really getting into the dialogue, the nurse told her her mother died 3 years ago, which is 2 years after she disappeared. So there's your 5 years, which means that Maria made arrangements. Once her daughter dusted, she apparently, you know, um, beat her cancer, went home, was discharged, got involved with Sword, and became the director of Sword. That's what I was gathering from the dialogue she was having with Hayward, was his name, that Monica was having with him. And then, of course, apparently her cancer came back, and she did pass away. 3 years, or no, 2 years after the snap. Yes, yeah. So no, yeah, 2 years after the snap, right? Her mother passed. So fast forward, she's back. She goes back to work. I caught at first time I'm watching it, I'm like, they could have given us an indication of how much longer was that scene in the hospital versus her walking into the Sword facility. But if you listen to the dialogue, Hayward said to her, it's been 3 weeks or something like that, and no one's. You're the only agent that's tried to come back. So that means 3 weeks after the blip, which was the blip, was everybody coming back. The snap was everybody disappearing. She's back at work and gets sent to meet Jimmy Woo from Ant-Man 2, the FBI agent, to investigate this situation with Westview. That part is still tricky to me. Like I'm probably gonna, I may watch it again just to kind of really pick through this dialogue of like what's really happening right there. But for right now, what I'm looking at it is what's obvious is you had the two officers sitting in front of, well, they're sitting on their car and they're sitting next to the sign that says "Welcome to Westview." And obviously Monica and Jimmy are expressing some suspicion, or as far as them telling them there is no Westview, and then they leave. So what was kind of odd to me is Jimmy and Monica are having this conversation, and there's a car sitting a little further down the road, and I figured, okay, that's Jimmy Woo's FBI vehicle, where what he showed up to this scene in. So I was kind of like, so are we supposed to take that he got there and these two guys were sitting out there, and so they converse with him, telling him there is no city, which is what kept him from going further into the city? Because I'm kind of like, well, why didn't he just ever take his car and try to drive in? And then he made a comment to Monica saying it doesn't want me to. So I'm like, well, what? A little bit of that dialogue is a little strange to me, or incomplete. There's some holes in there, because if he's saying that, that means he already knew. And then he said to her, "You can feel it too, can't you?" As if he knows that there's something keeping them from getting in the city. But then when she walked up to it or sent her drone and the drone got sucked in, he acted like he was surprised that that happened. So you don't know that a drone got, that that things get sucked into this place. So you never tried to go up there and see what was going on, like right there at the border of the city. Because if you can't see that there's a border there, what would have ever kept him from just driving his car into the city? Because it looks like an open road. So that's a little odd to me that he, uh, unless they're saying that was his first attempt to come to this city, and he was talking to um, these police officers, sheriffs, or what do you want to call them, and that's as close as he had ever gotten. So he never had a chance to walk all the way up there. But it's just like, yeah, I guess that's what we're supposed to take from that. So when she showed up, that was really she just happened to be the first person to, and even then it's, oh, no, 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 you know what, I get it. So it's kind of like they are suspicious of what's happening down the road, but rather than walk right into this situation, they wanted to send a drone. A little bit of plot convenience, I guess, because again, you're agents. You just take your car and drive in there. But I guess it had to be a little bit more of a spectacle or dramatic moment for us to watch them send a drone in first. The other key thing that I think people have to pay attention to, and it's going to come back up, is he mentioned that there's someone who's disappeared in Westview who was in a witness protection program or something. So this is probably going to be a significant character. And then when he said that trying to contact people to get a hold of him, not only did they not know where he was, he said these people didn't even know who this person was. They never heard of him. So that, again, the dialogue, some things are a little murky on purpose, I think, and that's one of them. Because I'm still like, I'd have to watch and listen to that a few times. The cool thing about this show, or the way they're doing this, is like half of the time you want to stay ahead of knowing what's happening. But I'm the type of person, like, I don't mind being completely in the dark as long as stuff gets explained at some point. So what happened there to me is this person that disappeared is one of those characters maybe in the show. But well, I'm going to get to that in a second. And but yeah, this missing person is going to be something significant. But the fact that he's saying no one's heard of him really makes it significant. And I'm about to get to my theory at that later on. So now she gets sucked in, and that gives your explanation for the awkwardness when we saw Geraldine in episode 2. So that kind of throws my little theory out of the window that she was a little confused or something. But maybe she was. I mean, that still could have been a case of her, since she was in there, you lose a little bit of your being in touch with reality. But mostly it was her realizing she got sucked in. She probably at some point recognizes who Wanda is. Like, yeah, I know Wanda from the Avengers. Let me just blend in here and try to figure out what the heck is going on as an agent. Which I did say in my last review for episode 3 that's got to be why she was there. Um, Here's the other let's quickly, the return of Darcy. I was looking forward to that. I knew it was coming. Um, really enjoyed Darcy in the Thor movies. Not so much in Thor: The Dark World. Some of the humor and stuff they were doing with her is a little cheesy. Her and that intern that she had. But other than that, like, her typical banter was spot on from the first Thor movie. Picked up right where she left off. um, Loved the part where she picked up the TV and the dudes just watch her and she's just like, I got it. Almost as if to say, don't worry. I know you're, sarcastically, because dude wasn't even trying to help her and he's just like, don't help. I got it, sarcastically. Thought that was funny. We got an explanation. Well, what was the coolest thing about it was finally seeing the characters, someone in the show, literally being in our position, which is, why the heck are we watching a sitcom with two of the Avengers in it? You know what I mean? It's almost like, for them, I mean, this is just so dope and brilliant on their part to write it this way. So now, after they've made you think that as the viewer for the first 2 episodes and even the third episode, even though you start to get more answers in the third episode, now in the fourth episode, they literally give you some characters who are sitting in your position, who are involved in the MCU, and you're seeing an actual reality outside of the sitcom, where these people are saying, why in the world are we watching the sitcom? I like how they're using science, you know, fictional science to explain stuff. I thought it was a dope part where she's using her meter and she's talking about the Big Bang, radioactivity, which, the Big Bang theory is how the world was created. So creation is 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 a part of this radiation. And then she says there's another type of frequency or something. She said type of wave on top of this. So it's like that's where the TV waves come from. And it's like that's your early explanation. If you can read between the lines of what you're trying to say, that's why it's coming across as a TV show, because somehow the life she's living has picked up TV frequency, so it comes across as a TV show. So that's something else that I'm going to build on again in just a few minutes. But I just love the fact that they're finally kind of addressing some stuff for the skeptics or people who are just like, can't, or just so bothered by this element of the TV show. Again, I've watched YouTuber, people who do what I'm doing right now, but obviously on a higher scale, which is why I'm subscribers to them. Which, by the way, hey, subscribe to my video, to my channel if you like. If you like what I'm talking about so far, go on ahead and hit subscribe because I'm going to continue to build this content up. But and watch my other reviews. I have other ones on MCU movies, DC movies, and other things like that. Uh, but I like the fact that they were introducing this. So all the skeptics who, and then I've seen some of my own friends as I'm on social media who are maybe not as geeky about the MCU as I am, or geeky about movies or fantasy or science fiction at all. Kind of questioning. I get it. Again, it's not for everybody. It was a risk to do this sort of format with the sitcom stuff. I just happen to love it because I do love those old shows. A lot of them, not all of them, but I've always appreciated the aesthetic of them, the humor that was involved, and all that stuff. I grew up on it. It's a generational thing. Even though some of the people who I've seen who don't care for it, they're of my same age group. I guess just depends on where you grew up. Maybe in some neighborhoods and cultures, and they just weren't into this stuff. But anyway, so or just I have older siblings and I have older parents who in terms of their age compared to mine. So yeah, I had older siblings who were still watching old shows, and I have older parents who like to watch old shows. So I picked up on it. But getting that kind of explanation as Darcy and Jimmy Woo are going through that, I just thought it was dope. And then, we still have to get answers why there's specific, jumping through decades or whatever, which I think we're going to get. They're going to continue to explain these things. But that was cool. Then the next cool part to me was when they went into identifying the people. So we got that answer, last episode, and maybe even in my review of the first two episodes. I've talked about, are these people fictional, or are they, are they materialized, or are they actual? You kind of got the impression from episode 3 that people are there who are there against their will, and now you get the answer that's kind of like, yeah, these are people who were living outside of this Westview bubble at some point, which is just, it's hilarious, but not like ha 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 ha. It's funny. I'm just saying. It's like it makes me smile at the creativity of what they're doing with this thing. Um, so yeah, so we got an answer that the characters on the show are there, and they're actually some other people out in the real Marvel world. They're just someone else in Wanda's Westview world. So once we get past that, and I think that's going to be even more significant as they were putting the names up with the people. Key thing to notice, though, they did not identify who Dottie is. They did not identify who Agnes is. I think those are the only two they didn't, because they told you who Herb was. Was his name Herb? Yeah. That's and Herb and Agnes were talking to each other. So I think that's not by accident that we didn't get those two people mentioned. Um, so they are going to play some kind of role. And I'm about to touch on that again. Well, you know what? Let's just touch on that right now. So my point with that is, as I was mentioning earlier, that the fact that this thing is being turned into a TV show, that there's a TV wavelength that's been merged with it. That part I think is not Wanda. I think this is where we're going to get another, well, the actual villain, so to speak, of this series, who's done this, because now they're the ones that created the broadcast. So that, I don't know why, but I'm saying they're the ones that created the broadcast, which is being picked up by the outside world. And Wanda may not be aware of that. You see what I'm saying? Probably she is not, or she is and knows it and is trying to keep that from happening. So it's another agency or another entity at work, at play here, who's done the TV feed or broadcast feed. And I guess my point is, in a strange way, Agnes is probably up to no good. I said that before, and Dottie might be as well. Oh, but it was some, again, the psychological kind of creepiness factor, or eeriness factor, maybe not creepy but eerie, is how when they're watching the show, now that we've seen episodes 1, 2, and 3, they're replaying this stuff because we're getting Darcy and Jimmy Woo's, I like saying Jimmy Woo, we're getting we're getting their perspective of watching these episodes, and yet stuff is being cut out. Again, brilliance. We know stuff that happened and they're not seeing it, so that's got to jolt us as viewers. Like, hey, wait a minute, why is it skipping and stuff? Like the scene when Dottie broke that glass. Why in the world didn't we get to see that? Like, it just skipped right ahead to her. It's almost like when you watching behind the scenes bloopers and deleted scenes, like it's almost like Wanda fixed it. So it's like, oh yeah, for the broadcasters, they're never going to see, for the audience, they're never going to see that this woman cut her hand. Let's just go right into another part where it's like pop quiz. What is, because even when we watched that in episode 2, it's just like, why would she have this like glitch and just jump back into a character in dialogue like that? Now we know why, because we needed to see that so that it would be more, you know what I mean, significant that it's not being seen later on. And that actually goes back to episode 1. It kind of explains now why the Hearts, the couple, Vision's boss, why would they have had a thing where he was choking and both of them were acting weird about it? Well, the wife was acting weird about it, and he's even acting weird, slamming the table, and like, it's almost like they were waking up out of their trance. Then he started choking for real. Wanda didn't know how she wanted to handle it because she's probably thinking these are people who I trapped in here, which, by the way, it's like that's what it boils down to. She's trapped these people in here in some form or another. And, she didn't know how to respond. And eventually she had to say, well, yeah, I guess I can't let the guy die. So she asked Vision to go, save him. And then they just popped up like, well, I guess it's time to go. And, you got that raise. It's almost like, why did they just jump right back into character? Now we know why. So probably, uh, they should have showed that too, because I guess from Darcy and Jimmy Woo's perspective, that's probably how that scene played out. They probably did not see him choking, because obviously now we're seeing what happens when Wanda does these quick cuts and jumps things back to where they were supposed to be. Henceforth, let's talk about the man who comes through the sewer. We got to see him starting out in a hazmat or some type of suit, from Sword, with the bungee, cord, whatever you want to call that, that's supposed to be attached to him while he's crawling through. He ended up passing through the barrier, which extended into the sewer. So his suit changed into a beekeeper. So that's interesting. I guess the beekeeper outfit is like more periodic of the time. So I guess because he's walking into a 50s decade or 60s for episode 2. So it's naturally not, there is no suit that would match what is in the current sword, you know, aerodynamic technology of a uniform. So it was more like it was more fitting of the period. So he turned into a beekeeper instead of, you know, an actual hazmat or whatever. Which that was, you know, watching it the second time, there's a curious question now. When she does the no, and we saw that in episode 2, and things rewound back, what happens to him? Because he's just standing looking at him. She said no. So probably in the next episode, we're gonna have to see what actually did transpire with him. The same way we got to see in episode 4 what really went down between Wanda and Monica. Because at the end of episode 3, we know Monica disappeared. We didn't know how, and then we got to see what happened, which was a dope scene from special effects to acting. Once again, um, what's her name? Elizabeth Olsen's doing her thing, and she's really mastered like the movements and stuff. I've been watching that over the movies because that could really be a cheesy looking thing, and I'm sure it kind of is when they're doing it with green screen and there's no special effects and you got to do all these things with your hand. But she's really doing a good job with that, and like I said, she's been doing it since Civil War, even really since Age of Ultron. It was looking a little weird in Age of Ultron. Like, yeah, they're gonna have to figure this one out. It was just more like she just kept doing like these little things. But you know, now she's got these hand motions that look, you know, they look kind of badass. Basically, is what I'm saying. Like her hand motions are badass now, and they were, like I said, in Civil War and definitely in Infinity War and Endgame. Um. So yeah. So go as I alluded to earlier. There's some points I want to make, and I just think there is another entity. So I think the guy who was the original missing person, who no one seems to know who he was anyway, I think that's going to be a problem because maybe this dude is some kind of. In keeping in mind, this is supposed to tie into Doctor Strange Part 2, the um, multiverse of madness. This is probably going to be a supernatural type of character. I think you got to be with me if you are nerding and geeking out like me. And I'm not even referencing comic book storyline characters. I don't know. I've heard things about the villain in Doctor Strange 2 being a character called Nightmare, and I've heard about Mephisto and all these things who are, you know, supernatural or demonic characters, so to speak, from the comics. At this point, I'm thinking something along those lines is definitely in the cards. That it's going to be some supernatural type of villain, and this is why people don't know who he is when Jimmy Woo's asking about him. He's been a supernatural character, just faking the funk from the beginning, posing as Jimmy Woo's, you know, witness protection person or whatever. You know what I'm trying to say? So we're gonna probably that's gonna start unfolding over these next few episodes, and he's lost again. He's lost inside of Westview. So there you go. He's in Westview doing his own agenda, which is creating that TV wave for him. Now, why I have no idea. They'll probably give more explanation, or he went in there. I did a Facebook Live with a couple guys last Monday, and I'm gonna do one again this Monday. I guess you could. I mean, I don't know where you're gonna follow me on Facebook because I don't really accept friend requests all like that. But the point is, we were talking about this Mephisto character in that he could have made some kind of deal with Wanda, you know, like the selling your soul to the devil or whatever type thing that was like uh, giving her vision back. So in exchange for whatever, you know what I mean? And that's what he's doing. So that's probably where this is going to tie in. This is my prediction. And then also, like I said, Agnes is going to have something to do with that. Um, I think. Dottie, maybe not. Because then again, Dottie, like, you know, got herself in a trance and was saying, you know, she was talking about, you know, I'm on to you or whatever she said. You know, she didn't really trust who Wanda was, and like I said, had that moment where she broke the glass in her hand because she was as confused as Wanda was about hearing Jimmy Woo's voice coming out of that radio, which is funny because I said in my first review of episodes 1 and 2. I thought it kind of sounded like Captain America. Hey, I was wrong, but yeah, sure. So yeah, those were great scenes. I mean, what a payoff on this episode. There's so much to dig into. Like I said, I was so mad. I'm like, there's no way this was 30 minutes. When they sat down in the couch with the twins, and all of a sudden you start seeing credits. I said, wait, so they had a 20-minute episode? And then I had to look and see that it was 30. Well, it was as long as the other ones. The credits are about 5 minutes, so really these episodes are like 25 minutes. But yeah, they packed a lot in there. Um, Teyana Paris is doing a great job now. They like getting her out of just the Geraldine character. I think she's got a bright future in the MCU. Looking forward to seeing her do some more things. Um, and there's my time. So I put myself to a 30-minute limit, and I'm about done. So yeah, I'm thinking episode 5 is. I mean, at this point, people are going to be really dying to see each episode. At this point, I don't think there's any question about it. So Marvel, you did your job. You have probably some very hooked viewers now. If they were able to get through, it's almost, well, I'm not going to prolong this, but yeah, so I think those things are going to unfold in the next few episodes. Um, didn't have a commercial break on this one, and the oh yeah. So yeah, how could I forget this? Talk about some borderline, dang near jump scares in this episode. Uh, the I mean, shoot, the one with the beekeeper in episode 2 seemed like a jump scare and a little creepy, but now we see what's really behind it. It's like, oh, see, he was actually a good guy, so to speak. But come on, when and it's crazy because when they go back to Wanda after she threw, forced Monica out of the house, and she's picking up the twin, or she walks back over to the crib, and Vision comes in the house. In this version in episode 4, I was part of me was like, I'm looking at him like, why does Vision not look as vibrant? Like, what is going on back there? And I've seen how they fade. I've watched enough TV that when they do that background character, they put blurry. Focus point. Yeah, focus point. Thank you. And I'm like, what are they doing right there? And I knew something was up, something. And I'm just like, he don't even look like he's got the right color. I kid you not. I wish I would have said it out loud to my lady as we were watching. But part of me was like, he looks discolored like he was after Thanos pulled the thing out of his head. I thought that for like a millisecond, and I just let it go. I'm just like, hey, I don't know what they're doing. But boy, when she turns around and looks at this dude with his forehead pulled out, the stone pulled out, the hole in his head, his eyes are completely white, and he is the gray. I was like, see, that's what I thought, but it was a jump scare. Like, holy crap, wow. Brilliant move. Doctor Strange 2 is supposed to have a bit of some horror element, as the first one was supposed to, directed by Scott Derrickson, who's known for doing horror movies. But now they have Sam Raimi doing Doctor Strange 2, and he's got a horror background. He's the one that did The Grudge or The Ring, one of those. I think he did the Grudge. So I don't know if that was a little foretaste of some type of visuals Doctor Strange 2 is going to have. Maybe Sam Raimi consulted on that crap. I don't know, but that crap was a nice cutaway jump scare type moment. And please, more of that for throughout this series, and definitely I don't care if they do it in Doctor Strange 2, Spider-Man 3. Well, they had a thing in Spider-Man Far From Home when the zombie Iron Man. So, yeah, loved it. Just dope touches to throw you back. So again, if you had a problem with this sitcom stuff, you got to be like, okay, now Marvel is the MCU. They're giving us some stuff that makes you feel like now we're following up on the movies. You know what I mean? So they're gonna have to explain that. There's some theories I could think of why did he look like that in that moment. Is that because that is really a freaking zombie dead corpse reanimated walking around in reality, but she has lost her own vision, pun intended, to see him look the way she wants him to look, you know? Or was it just her having a moment? I was saying to my daughter and my lady, I'm kind of thinking right now, you could say, because that exchange with Monica took Wanda out of her blissful Westview reality and made her reveal herself in that moment, because they were talking about Ultron and all this other stuff. Her using her powers in that way took her mentally to a reality to where when she looked at Vision, she saw the Vision that she remembered. You know what I'm trying to say? It's like really, again, head trippy to actually, you know, balance in these types of parallels in reality of what are we looking at in at any given moment. You know what I'm trying to say? So it could be either one. It could be that she he does look like the regular Vision, but that moment of her taking herself out of her own this new reality took her back to the old reality of seeing him as a dead person or android. Or he really does look like that, and because she took herself out, she had a moment where she sees him for what he really is until she could blink, shake herself into seeing him into the image she has wanted to create for him. So it's almost like they're the opposite situations, but based on the same factors. Her being kind of shocked out of her blissful state either revealed what he really looks like or it took her to a dark place of what he used to look like. You see what I'm trying to say? So there we go. Dope episode. Can't wait to see episode 5. It's gonna be tough waiting these weeks, but I do appreciate the buzz that it's creating. Um, it gives us something to keep talking about. So now that I've done my review, I haven't really watched any of my favorite YouTubers reviews. I'm about to go check some out. And yeah, uh, that's all. I mean, as far as giving it a rating at this point, please, this is a 10 out of 10. Just from them touching on Monica's situation with the way Infinity War and Endgame, a nod to those, the blip, the snap, all that stuff, dusting and all that stuff, to even, like I said, that little dialogue from Captain Marvel, to finally, bringing Darcy in and making it useful, making it make sense and making it useful for her to be there, as well as Jimmy Woo, tying it into movies, and then answering some of our questions without being like, well, here's the answer to, it's like they built it into the dialogue and into the storyline because these characters need answers that we as an audience need. Great, just well done. And then again, getting some answers, but still leaving more questions and new questions is dope. Oh, here's the key. Here's the last thing. Uh, I like the end. Monica's shot out of there. They run up to her with the all of the government vehicles and everything, and she says it's all Wanda, which was part of my theory at the end of episode 3. There you go. To at least at this point we gotta say, hey, it's Wanda. She does know what she's doing, and when she's talking to Vision at the end of episode 4, she says, I've got everything under control. It's a little bit of a ominous tone with that. I don't think she means to be ominous, but it's almost like she balances it perfectly as an actress. That it sounds ominous, but it also just sounds like her just trying to really keep a control on everything. But now that we know it's just a lot going on, there's a little more of an ominous tone to it, or eerie again. But also you're starting to see Vision's uneasiness about everything. You know, even in that dialogue. And then last but not least, especially watching it this second time, when they start gradually bringing in the song at the end, Voodoo Child by Jimi Hendrix. Perfect. I mean, it's just like you. That song is like dope to me now because of the way it begins. You just hear the. Now, if you're a geek, especially if you're my age, geeks like wrestling. If you know where I'm going with that, the Monday Night Wars of WCW and WWE in the late '90s. Come on now, you know where I'm going. Hollywood Hogan with the theme song, NWO. Come on, dopeness. So, uh, Voodoo Child. I guess we're talking witchcraft, voodoo, and then they had children. So it's almost like Voodoo Child. Is it about the children or is it just in general? Either way, I'm sure that was worth their licensing fee to use that and they can afford it. Disney can afford it. Just nice touch. Great ending. It's almost like when Iron Man, the first movie, ended with the song Iron Man by Black Sabbath. You know what I mean? It's like, thank you, Marvel. Just go back to, you know what I mean? Just, it's been years since they pulled something like that. And there you go. Dopeness. So there it is. Great episode. Loving this show. Loving it. This was my most anticipated show when they announced them from the beginning, just off of the premise of what they said it was going to be, was just too curious. And when they said it was tying in to Doctor Strange 2, I already knew, okay, well, this is going to be some ill stuff because I already figured Doctor Strange 2 is going to be on some other stuff. So there you go. This is, I mean, man, I don't know. I think the MCU is going to be just fine going forward without Captain America and Iron Man, even though supposedly Chris Evans may be back for something. But yeah, dope episode. So y'all, thanks for tuning in. Leave some comments, and I'll see y'all for episode 5 probably next Sunday or Saturday, depending on how anxious I am to get to this. Peace out. Soul of a Nerd.